Okay, everybody. Well, we've got a nice agenda to get through tonight. We're going to, Councilor Groen, do you want me to wait for you? All right, we'll just start the meeting. Okay. Well, I will call to order this meeting of the Westland City Council. It is Monday, September 15th, 2025, the day before my mom's birthday. Happy early birthday, Mom. First item, as always, is to approve the agenda. So I entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the agenda for the September 15th, 2025 council work session.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for the September 15th, 2025 City Council work session. Any discussion from the council? I will just note for the meeting minutes that Council President Baumgartner is excused tonight from the meeting, so she will not be present. So with that, you can call the roll.
Counselor Bonington,
Yes.
Counselor Bright,
Yes,
Counselor Gruner,
Yes.
Mayor Bielostowski.
Yes, thank you. So the motion passes, the agenda is approved, and the next item of business is public comments. Do we have any tonight?
We have no public comment.
Okay. No comments, so on to mayor and council reports. Reports from community advisory groups or city business in general. Anybody have anything? We've met last week, so we had some reports. We'll go again to Councilor Groner, please.
Yes, this afternoon I attended the police review and recommend meeting. They basically discussed their process and their work on a report that will be due early next year.
That was one of their 2 public meetings each year. Thank you for joining them at that. Appreciate that. Councilor Bonington, anything?
Attended the Parks Board meeting on Thursday and got some feedback about their thoughts on Oppenlander in advance of the engagement we're planning as a result of the last meeting. I was surprised to find out that I think there's a lot of questions that the public has about whether they actually still want to support that. So it was good feedback and hopefully be able to review it.
Thank you. Yes, we will. And we're going to have a good engagement period on that topic to kind of determine the next steps for the city. And look forward to hearing from the Parks Board on that. Councilor Bonington, thank you. Councilor Bright, please.
yes, I attended the Water Environment Services Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday, and they were providing an additional update on their capital program that we will be asked to approve and forward to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. I'm just going to look back at my calendar, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. I have nothing to report myself, so we will continue on the agenda. The next item, agenda item 5, is 2025 Community Development Code Cleanup Amendment Package Staff Report. And I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you.
Cleaning up the code.
We are cleaning up the code. We like to do that. It's actually more challenging to do than you sometimes think. I'd like to welcome up Principal Planner Darren Wise to the table. I also think I haven't yet introduced our new Community Development Director, Steve Cooper, to the council in a formal meeting. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here. But it looks like Steve's not coming up to the podium, which is okay. Darren, well, come up and say hello.
Welcome, Steve. We're so glad you're here.
That we are, looks like we're 24 minutes ahead of the agenda. So Steve, you want to give a 24-minute intro?
It all started one day on September 14th when I was born. 22 minutes now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
wow.
No, thank you, Council. It's great to be here. Steve Cooper, I'm the Community Development Director. I've met each of you individually by this point, but this is my first time here before Council. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have been with the city for just a little bit over a month now.
Thank you. We're very glad you're here.
Thank you.
We are too, but I think it's Darren's show tonight. Darren's been working long and hard on this project, which we appreciate. He's going to tell you a little bit of the background for this project and what the Planning Commission has been talking about, and ask you whether we're moving forward or not after tonight's conversation. So Darren, take it away and let's see if we can get the PowerPoint.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. So I've got a brief presentation to run through here, and then feel free to interrupt me at any time if you got specific questions around what I'm speaking about. So let's see. So this. Oh, there we go. All right. So for tonight, in your packet, in the agenda bill, there was. It's hard to read. The agenda bill contains some background information, including that the Planning Commission recommended a code cleanup project on the docket back in the spring. The council then prioritized code cleanup project on the docket and then appointed the Planning Commission as the working group for the project. We had broken out 3 topics to tackle immediately. Those topics are the minimum and maximum density calculations, partition minimum density exemptions, in the shape of newly created lots, which I'll go into more detail as I go through the presentation. The Planning Commission has held 2 work sessions and also a public hearing where they've made a recommendation to the City Council. There were no comments provided on any of the 3 topics through those work sessions or public hearing. Then, of course, the exhibits included a recommendation memo from the Planning Commission and then the actual proposed ordinance 1763, which has proposed amendments to CDC Community Development Code chapters 2, 5, 24, 55, 85, and 95. All right, so I'm just going to go through each of the 3 topics individually and speak about them a little bit. And again, if you have any specific questions surrounding each of the 3 topics, please feel free to interrupt me. So the first one is minimum and maximum density calculations. Staff has struggled with this over the years, and there's been a couple of cases recently where there's been an interpretation by the development community wasn't in alignment with staff's interpretation. So we wanted to make an amendment to make it objective where everyone interprets the code the same way. Make it found in one location where you go to find how you calculate the minimum maximum densities. And then it wasn't clearly defined, so add a couple of definitions into the code. This all stems from the Metro Urban Growth Management Functional Plan requirements. In the Urban Growth Management Functional Plan is a set of regional policies that either recommend or require cities and counties to make changes to their comprehensive plans or development codes. And in this case, the functional plan requirements require the cities and counties to have a minimum density standard for each zone. And then other metro cities have established how you calculate those minimum densities through code sections. So we've sort of utilized some of the other metro cities codes and created one for the city of West Lynn. There are some exemptions to the minimum maximum densities, of course, middle housing projects or middle housing land divisions, which will go beyond the maximum density allowed in a specific zone in our code. Plan unit developments are calculated differently. There's an allowance for transfer densities from protected open spaces, and then partitions, which again, I'll talk more about in topic 2. So for the proposed code amendments themselves, so there'll be a few chapters that will be touched with this topic 1. Chapter 2 definitions. We're eliminating 2 existing definitions, acres gross and acres net, and changing the terminology to developable gross area and developable net area. Just a change in terminology. In chapter 5, we're going to create a measurements section, and that's where you'll find the code, the actual code language that shows you how to calculate the developable net area. And that's done by removing type 1 and 2 lands, which are the most sensitive lands in the community. removing any parkland that would be dedicated as part of a development, any public rights of way or private streets that are created as part of a development. And we've also, to keep in line with current code, created the option where a developer or an applicant could remove heritage or significant trees from the calculation of that net developable net area. And this is where after the Planning Commission recommendation, the City Attorney's Office actually recommended that we add some additional minor language, the heritage and significant trees, to clarify how that area is measured. So we're just now going to point to or reference Community Development Code Chapter 55-105. So you'll have seen that in your agenda bill, where we're just adding a reference to that. So that's going to be a recommendation for council to add that into the proposed code amendments. And then, then there would be the process to calculate the maximum density and a process to calculate the minimum density. So as I referenced the functional plan on the last slide, the city of West Lynn has a minimum density of 70% of the maximum density. So if you could develop 10 new lots in your subdivision, our code requires you to at least do 7. And that's all now clearly defined and clearly outlined in that chapter 5. And then chapter 24, 55, and 85, just cleaning up random references. And then again, pointing everyone to that new section in chapter 5 to show how you calculate the maximum and minimum densities. So then topic 2, which is the partition minimum density exemption. So again, in the last few months, we've had some differing interpretations from applicants and people inquiring about the code. So it's obviously not clear and objective if folks are having a different reading of the code. So again, this points back to that Metro functional plan requirements of having that minimum density. And then the functional plan allows cities or counties to reduce the minimum zone capacity of a single lot or parcel with negligible effect. So what we've seen twice now in the last few months is someone just coming in and wanting to do 3 parcel partition and then claiming that it was exempt from the minimum requirements because they were only doing 3 parcels. And the way our code was written, you could interpret it that way. But staff has always interpreted that you have to meet the minimum zone density. And then if you were at 3 or less, then you could exempt yourself down to 2. So we wanted to make that clear in the code, that so everyone was aligned when they came in for an application. And so in your agenda bill on page 3, I'd provided an example. If you had a 5-acre property zoned R7, the maximum density 4 lots. So under the city's current code and what we're proposing is with these amendments, the 70% of that would be 17 lots. So you would be required to do at least 17 lots under our code and a maximum of 24.
Yes. Is there any time limit? I could imagine a builder might want to build his development in stages.
Yes, you can do staged development. We've got a specific code section where if you want to do, phase 1 of a subdivision and build the first 50 lots, and then phase 2 build the next 50 lots, and phase 3 the next 50 lots. That's available.
So
to
the
them.
minimum apply to the final build out.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. So anyhow, the language as written and argued by the applicants in the last couple months, that they were arguing that if they only wanted to do 3 parcels, they would be exempt from that minimum density. So that's a pretty big difference, 3 to 17. So we want to make sure that that's clear in the code, that the expectation would be they were doing 17 lots at a minimum.
Why would they only want to do 3 if they could have 17 lots? Do you, do you think? It's just interesting.
Yeah, so this
issue.
is just an example. There was smaller properties where it was like 5 lots versus 3 lots, but someone could, in theory, argue that, well, we just want 3 large executive home lots
Okay.
as opposed to building out a subdivision.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's just hopefully clarifying how we get to that exemption. So here's the actual code language and what's changing. So it's essentially requiring do that net developable area calculation, the maximum density calculation, and the minimum density calculation. And if it results in 3 parcels or less, then you're exempt, and you can just do 2 parcels if you wish, which is 66% versus 70%. So it's not a huge impact. Anything I can clarify on that topic too?
I don't see any questions. You can continue.
All right, thank you. All right, and then the final one is the shape of newly created lots and parcels. So again, the language in our code talks about 90 degrees, the side property line being 90 degrees to the street, but it's not clear whether that 90 degrees has to continue to the rear parcel or lot line. And so again, differing interpretations. So we find this not clear and objective. The images on the right are two developments that have come in the last couple of months, again, with some very odd parcel lines. And we were trying to get them to square those off, but they argued that the code didn't require it, but it creates little fingers that actually aren't developable with the setbacks of the area. So we wanted to, again, align the code similar to other jurisdictions in the metro area to create consistent size and shape for newly created lots or parcels, have them square or rectangular lots. Again, eliminate those unnecessary irregular lines inside the developments. This will help, again, with future development patterns to make sure that consistent lots can be transitioned. And then future extension of streets. So if you wanted to create a street through lots or parcels at some point in the future, you could use the right of way on either side of the property line, as opposed to having to figure out how you're going to get around all of these angles in the parcels or lots. And then it helps to build community and neighborhoods by trying to get all the lots aligned on against the street, and then the house is all aligned against the street, as opposed to houses, flag lots behind each other. So again, this will just again clean up the code to make it clear what the expectation is through an application process. So for topic 3, again, just a couple of chapters will be touched. That chapter 2, we're going to create a definition for rectilinear. And so it's very clear what the expectation is for those newly created lots. In that chapter 5 measurements section, we're creating guidance on how to do a segmented lot or parcel line. So if you wanted to have one angle change or a couple of angle changes in it, you can utilize this measurement section. It allows you a 10% change, lateral change. And then again in chapter 85, just cleaning up the language, requiring those rectilinear lines unless not practicable because of existing property lines or the street radius around a cul-de-sac or a curve or natural features such as a creek or a wetland or such things. And again, referencing back to that chapter 5 to show how you do the calculation for those segmented lot or parcel lines. And again, this is consistent with other jurisdictions in the metro area on how they have newly created parcels or lots through a subdivision process. And again, the image on the right there is showing what we're trying to achieve with this code amendment is consistent frontage along streets. So again, we went through a process where we had two planning commission work sessions this summer. Cleaned up the language a little bit with them, and then had the public hearing on August 6th, where they recommended council adopt it as presented. And again, we're recommending via the city attorney's office to add that one little addition to reference how to calculate the area of the heritage or significant trees. And then we're here tonight for your work session. So if you have any further questions, we can answer those. And then if council is comfortable with the proposal, we would bring it back to a public hearing on October 14th. And with that, I will entertain any further questions.
Thank you very much. A good presentation. Any questions from the city council? Councilor Bright, please.
Not really a question, more of a comment, but I appreciate the referring back to the other sections. That keeps you from duplicating the language and then in a future update, missing something. So I think that will make going forward cleaner and perhaps easier.
All right, thank you for that.
Any other comments, or questions? I'll just say I'm glad that it's interesting to see that the clear and objective standards thing that was enacted by the legislature continues to come up. And I'm glad that we're doing everything we can to have clear and objective code, because then that minimizes legal risk. So appreciate you guys bringing this forward. And I guess we will, the question for the council is everybody comfortable sending this to the public hearing on October 14th for the decision? Any changes or objections? Okay, I saw head nods for the bringing it to the October 14th meeting for a adoption hearing and no objection. So we will do that.
All right, thank you. And we'll see you on October 14th then.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Any closing thoughts, Mr. City Manager?
No, I'm
Okay.
good. I just know from the inside perspective how much work a project like this takes. And I appreciate Darren's work on it all the way along.
Should also
And the
thank the,
thorough review by the planning commission.
yeah, I was gonna say, thank the planning commission for their two meetings on the topic to make it easy for us.
Yeah, for sure. I know
Uh,
you have a lot of trust in your planning commission and your planning staff, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely. So with that, we'll transition then, as we already are, to the CMGC Services for Operations Complex Phase 1 Pre-Construction Services and Design Update. There's a
Thank
good
you,
agenda
Mr.
title.
Mayor, we appreciate that. And today we have brought the A-team, the entire team, not the entire team, but a great team of professionals that have been working with our staff to identify the design, the cost estimates, and potential cost savings in the facility design. I feel real proud of the work that's being done to make sure that we're looking at this in a timely fashion and continuing to bring you updates and questions related to the site as appropriate. This is a council priority. We know it's important to you. We appreciate the money that you have allocated in the budget over the last several budget cycles for this, and we are trying to do right by that. So Eric and Morgan are here with the team, and if you guys can introduce the team, and I'm not sure who's kicking it off, actually.
I think you did. Eric Leyes, Public Works Director, City Engineer. Thanks for having us tonight. I'll do just a brief kind of plan of attack and intro. Like John said, we got our owner's rep here, architect, and then our contractor. So happy to bring another installment update on where we're at with the project, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts here in a minute. We have been brought before you several presentations back in March with the contract amendment for the local contracting rules for CMGC, the CMGC contract, and then along with sustainability workshop we did back in May, giving an overview. So tonight we're going to do a little brief overview, kind of what I'm rambling on about, where we've been, what the plan is. But super excited to be working with these teammates over here. I think we've done great work on coming up with a great design, refining it some more. But I think so far we've done great work working together and coming up with hopefully a project that we can come to, I don't know, what's the word? Yeah, there you go. I'll be proud of. Thank you, John. So now I'll turn it over to Morgan, and she's going to do a little bit more introduction.
Thank you. Good evening, council. So as you might see in your agenda report, we've been doing kind of a comprehensive what we call value engineering exercise, which reviews several aspects of the current design. And it's encompassed 5 subgroups of subject matter experts from a variety of trades and partners. And we do have our representatives here. They're going to go in more detail and they'll introduce themselves in a moment. So that's really the point tonight, is to talk about that value engineering exercise, where we've come from, what we've done, and then future next steps. We are not at 100% design completion. We are not at 100% construction documents. We are still really in the refining phase, trying to make sure we get the best design possible at the best value. So that's where we're here. During our pre-construction phase contract, we promised there would be updates before we got to the final design, before we came back and asked for a GMP contract award. So that's what we're here to do tonight. We hope to just provide lots of information, and if there are any questions along the way, please just let us know. And I'm going to turn it over to Julia and Kevin with Klosh Group. They are our owner's rep. They will start the introduction, and then we also have reps from Skanska and Scott Edwards Architecture here. Leading it over to Julia.
Okay. I'm Kevin Sund with Klosh Group. Thank you for having us here tonight. And yeah, we want to give an update to the project and really excited about that. I think I'd like to introduce the team. Everyone will introduce themselves, but I'm Kevin Sund, Klosh Group, and helping with the management through this VE effort and overall oversight for the project. I think we got to walk the site with most everyone in the room too. Julia.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. So Julia Stahl with
I don't.
Yeah, for you folks, if you can just have the green light on and pretty close to the mic when you speak, please.
Okay.
Julia Stong with Klosh Group. I'm the project manager on the owner's rep side. Once again, really excited to be here today with you guys and give you a progress update with what we've been up to. So with that, I'll pass it over to Brandon.
Sure, thank you. I'm Brandon Dole with Scott Edwards Architecture. Good to see all of you tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Kim Larson with Skanska. I've lived in this community for 28 years, so this is a really special project to be part of. I'm glad to be here tonight. During the pre-construction efforts, I get to lead a team of awesome estimators. We're delivering lots of collaborative opportunities to look for value engineering, as Morgan mentioned, and we're really excited to be on the tail end of that, wrapping it up in a few weeks, and I'm excited to share what we find. Thanks.
Did you say you live in West Lynn? Hey, it's great. Glad you're part of our contractor team then. That's great. Yeah.
And then on the next slide, the agenda, Eric and Morgan gave a kind of good recap there, but we're going to talk about previous council session, quick schedule update, and then progress update of where we're at throughout the process in the value engineering effort and design, and then next steps and future milestones, and then questions. So we can go down to the next one. So yeah, recap from previous session. Eric went through that. Okay. Eric went through that a little bit of talking about the CMGC pre-construction contract. We got Skanska on board. Kim and her team are working really hard going through this, and then also the sustainability review and looking at the wetlands and the photovoltaic PV panels on the parking areas in the building. And so, yeah, that's the recap there. And then we'll go to the next one. Schedule update. We were looking at starting in the wet season for this project, and everyone has seen the site. And as we've gone through this value engineering effort, understanding that there are more benefits in starting in a dry season And we can't really tell you what month that is because it could start raining in April really hard, or it could start raining in June really hard. But looking at more of a dry season because there's so much earthwork to get down to the basalt layer and being able to get a good foundation for the building. And so that's our schedule update as far as construction start.
Alrighty, so now for the fun stuff, what we've been up to since you last heard from this project team. Design-wise, we have completed 100% design documents. We have completed the geotech engineering report for the site, which is really exciting because that shows us, more detailed information about the soils and the basalt so that we can really maximize where we're putting the buildings in association to our site constraints to be cost effective, which I think is really exciting. As well as we started our land use application. So as Eric and Morgan referenced, we have that in and we've started the timeframe on that, which is great. We also have really incorporated Skanska into our team. So after we approved Skanska for the pre-construction effort, they really dove into the deep end with us, and we've been evaluating the constructability as well as completing a value engineering exercise has been referenced. So that's really where we optimize the budget with the scope to determine the most efficient way to put our building together. So as referenced, we've been in a VE sprint, if you will, where we have all of our stakeholders come in and it's really a collaborative investigation of the best way to design this project to be maximizing community dollars. I think we can move on to the next one. Alrighty, so looking into the future, once we complete our value engineering effort, we'll have a better idea of where the design is progressing. So then we'll be able to complete design. From there, Skanska will be able to price our design and bring a guaranteed maximum price for the project. And then we'll start construction. So throughout those large milestones, obviously there's a lot of steps in between. We will, or Morgan and Eric will, be coming to you guys regularly to provide updates as we progress through the project. Eric, Morgan, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's great. We also, want this to be discussion. So if you have questions specifically about the value engineering design effort, about the site constraints, that is why we have our architect and our representative from Skanska here, who really are our experts for the constructability of the project and the design. So we welcome any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you for that. And thank you everybody for being here on this nice Monday evening. Any opening questions or comments from the council? Councilor Bright, you've got to, okay. Anything from anybody else? Councilor Groner, please.
Yes, you may be covering this later, but I'm curious to know what sort of major value engineering changes you may have made or discovered or are projecting.
So right now, we're still actively in the value engineering process. In the coming weeks, we will be presenting the possible solutions or alternatives for Westland to move forward with. So more to come.
Thank you.
We will add, though, that the one of a significant value that we do see is the dry season start. So that is one of those value engineering options. There is cost savings in starting in the dry season due to a variety of reasons. But, containing a wet site, you're going to mobilize, you might have to remobilize, you might have to shut down during harsh weather. You can do it a bit more efficiently, which can save costs. So there are lots of ideas coming out about all kinds of things. And we're definitely looking at structural design. We're looking at where the site is configured, how we're building walls, all of that. But right now, it's a really thorough brainstorming exercise where they're calling it rough order of what are they? Rough
Rough order of
ROMs,
magnitude.
rough
Yep,
order of
ROMs.
magnitude. So they're very high level estimates, like it could maybe cost this much, it could maybe save this much. Then we consider it. And then we say, that sounds like a good idea. And then they'll go with that and they'll be able to refine those cost estimates, bring them back to us so we can really look at some better numbers and decide, okay, that's a really good value to shift to. And so that's kind of where we're leading with this exercise.
Thank you.
And I'll add too, just Morgan mentioned structural. One of the examples is, if you remember before, we had 3 individual buildings, admin building up top and then 2 warehouses down below. Due to potential difficulty with some unsuitable soil up on top, that's where a lot of the site work cost is coming from, is what the initial estimate is looking at. And so we're potentially putting the admin building on top of the fleet warehouse shop. So we'd have a 2-story building again, still parking up above. The potential to eliminate the big retaining wall that was originally proposed. So lots of good ideas that we're discussing and like you said, rough order of magnitude, that was a big one. So that's kind of where we're landing at the moment, I believe.
Thank you.
On the issue of value engineering, just want to say, if you could ever use the city council's help from the standpoint of like, if you want 1 or 2 of us to serve on a committee with you or help out to get this to the finish line, happy to volunteer and we can talk about that and who would be on that process. Cause I know, we're not to the what's the GMP guaranteed maximum price yet. We're still negotiating and figuring out the final cost, but I don't want it to be something where we value engineer it to the point where it's no longer like nice or no longer has the maximum. Really, the most important thing is having the maximum utility to our public works department in our city. So that's where I get concerned when we talk about value engineering. I know it's important. We can do things like changing the site layout and changing the construction start and everything, but I just want to make sure that we're as involved as possible in the process from the city council side, just to make sure that we're able to get that maximum utility out of the building. And we have to talk about, if we have to talk about ways to make up a cost difference, or they're happy to and engage in that process. So just wanted to offer that up for you all.
Thank you for that. And that is a good point, because that is, a possible conversation we will have down the line. We're not necessarily saying we're going to have budget constraints, but we want to make sure, as you said, that we aren't sacrificing programming, the necessary utility. So, we've had that conversation about coming back to council once we have a better idea of what this is really going to look like, and asking for council support and some council direction on what are the priorities in terms of making sure that we have programming and this building is built to be a functional building for the sustained future. And if there are some cost constraints, what can we do as a city to meet those while making sure the community gets the building it needs, and we're not coming back in 5-10 years needing to redesign or add on to the structure. As you know, construction's never going to get less expensive, and we want to do this right the first time while making sure we sustain the best maximum price and the best value for the community.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more what you said. And we'll look forward to continued engagement on that topic. And you all can have an internal conversation and chat with John and come back if you need us at any point. And it looks like Councilor Brike has a comment.
And yes, the functionality is primary, but I still want it to look as cool as the renderings.
Thank you for that, Counselor. Anything else? I guess maybe the other thing you can talk about is kind of the next steps for, when cost estimates will be ready and how that process will look going forward.
I think I'd like to turn that over to Skanska and our architect and our owner's rep to talk about next steps and schedule.
So next steps, we are, like I said, wrapping up our value engineering exercise. From there will be a couple-week period where all of the ideas and the ROM costs associated with the ideas are presented to Westland. They decide which items they'd like to move forward with. At that point in time, we will have completed the value engineering effort. From there, we will have a better idea of the potential opportunities, or what's that other word, Kim? Not constraints, but what? Efficiencies. Thank you, sorry. That can be found in the project. From there, Skanska will produce an estimate later once design has been updated to match the value engineering effort. So it's a long-winded way of saying we're a little ways out from having an estimate that's updated that is not a ROM.
Yeah. Like, are there any other questions with that? I think it's, yeah, it's having the value engineering, that's where we get the ideas. And then SEA will take the design and update the design, and then Skanska can provide what our final price is for the project. And that's where we can set the GMP based off of. And timing wise, we don't have that quite yet because we're still in the value engineering.
Sounds good. And maybe just for the record of the meeting, Eric or Morgan or John, could you just highlight why this is so important to the community, this Public Works Operations Center? Just, I know we've got a reporter in the room, for example, and this is a really critical project. It's a council priority, as John mentioned, but we've taken a tour of the current facility, which is on Norfolk Road and Norfolk Street in West Lynn, and it's aged, I don't know when it was built, but it's at least 50, 60 years old, completely aged out. And our water department, for example, is in a cabinet because that's what we have and that's what we're
Wait a
working
minute, I
on.
thought you wanted us to answer the question.
No,
Yeah.
I do. I think it's really
Not
important
not
to,
our water department, the telemetry for the water department, yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just like, I remember when they showed me the water department, it's like the main place where it's controlled, it's like in a cabinet. It's like, this is the city of West Lynn. We deserve, so anyway, please, whatever you would like to add to the
Well, I
record.
think John can speak pretty well to it, but before this meeting, he did ask me some questions about when we thought the original building had been constructed. And so just for some background, the original property was deeded in 1937. And we bought it for $320.50, that property. I don't know the exact age of the building. I believe it was in the 50s. If you look at our historical aerial photography, there is a map from 1936 and the property is vacant. Our next map is in 1968 and the building is there. So somewhere between 1936 and 1968, it was constructed, but we believe in the 50s. It's a definitely undersized facility. It's a hodgepodge of buildings, lean-tos. We have some porta potties and outside bathrooms that people use, unheated facilities, and it's in the middle of a residential community. So it's just not the best location. It doesn't have the best functionality. Parks maintenance is there as well, and unfortunately, they store a lot of their materials all over the city in other city-owned buildings because we don't have space to have proper storage and on-site materials. So that is not an efficient way to do business, to have to go all over the city to get your materials, to do your job. So really the goal of this is to provide an up-to-date, safe, resilient facility that can last and serve this community for years and years to come. They are a key part of emergency response. So we want to make sure that there's a building that is suited and equipped to provide that response to the residents of West Lynn. They deserve good response from our employees, and our employees deserve a good spot to work and call home as well.
And there's some storage constraints, right, for like winter materials and things like that to keep the roads clear. I remember that. We can't store enough for the city during the winter events. So,
Yeah, Public Works also has some remote facilities that they store, material for winter emergencies. And, I've worked a little bit down at the admin building with Public Works, and nobody, what we're proposing to build is, each division, parks, Public Works, the different divisions all have their own team room along with supervisor offices. Right now, we have supervisor offices that have been somewhat turned into team room. There is no separate room. There's not a big conference room. The lunchroom is undersized for, maybe we could pull it off with the Public Works group, but public, Parks is just as big, so you throw them in there and it's just people are spread out all over. So it's undersized. The heating, HVAC is terrible. Yeah, so list goes on, right? But
We make the best of it, though.
yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And thank you for that. I think it's really important. Every meeting we talk about the operation, just to make sure it's not just a shiny new building for the city. It is an absolutely important, critical project. And so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's out there for everybody.
We'll have a better list next meeting.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a lot, and folks have done tours, and I'm sure maybe eventually we'll get a video out there or something to kind of highlight. This is the current op center. This is why we need a new one for the safety of the city. Councilor Bonington, please.
Yeah, I visited back in July on the hottest possible day and filmed a number of things that I think were important to highlight for the community. And I've had a couple setbacks, but I am editing together a nice video to put out there to the public so they can understand why this is so important, because I think when you see it, it's very clear. It makes a lot of sense. So that'll be coming soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Look forward to that. And I know our friends at TVC TV have offered at various times to help us with any promotional videos or informational videos. So that's another option we could explore for kind of looking at that with some professional camera work and footage. With that, anything else from the council on this topic? Mr. Williams, anything you'd like to add? I know you've been working closely with the team, I'm sure. Anything to close us out? Would anybody like to close us out from the project team side?
Looks like not. I would
Sounds
just
good.
say, I reiterate what I said at the beginning. We understand this is a priority for the council. We also understand that there's financial realities. We're trying to balance all of those elements, as you've heard here. We're excited about the project, but we're not going to bring you a design and a cost estimate until we're sure that it's the right thing, that it's financially and operationally sustainable. So it may be a little bit of time before we can get that work done and come back here. But it's not a project to be hurried, except for all the design problems that you heard at our current shop. But we can wait a couple more months.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here. We look forward to hosting you back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, we can transition now, if we're ready, to the next item on the agenda, which is the consideration of the Lady B tugboat agreement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Megan is going to come up, but I'm going to start off this presentation. Over time, you have had several discussions with a group called the Willamette Falls Heritage Advocates, who I'll be calling the Advocates throughout tonight because the name's too long, about their proposal to preserve a 40-foot tugboat. It's about 75 years old, called the Lady B. In the staff report in today's packet, I didn't go back into all the history, but I did include a link to the original staff report on this project that has a quite lengthy explanation of the importance of the Lady B that was written by the advocates. And much of that information is still exactly right. And much of the staff considerations and the council options from that time is still right. What we have for you tonight is a potential agreement, a memorandum of understanding with the advocates that would create a partnership between the city and the advocates to preserve the boat and display it in city property. The current property that's in mind is down at Willamette Park near the boat launch. And this is in response to direction you provided to you provided to us and the advocates back in March. You asked us to work with the advocates to draw up an agreement to give you a better sense of how this might work and what the costs might be and what the impacts might be. And so Megan and I are here on behalf of the team, including the advocates who weren't able to attend tonight ultimately, but are still very, very interested in this project. And I'll share a little bit of our thoughts and a little bit of their thoughts and how we got where we are. Be mostly working off the material in the council packet. In the council packet, you'll also see a memorandum from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which has considered this topic multiple times and has their concerns. Megan and I share some of those concerns, I think it's fair to say. What we have tried to do with this draft agreement, and I should also say that City Attorney Kaylee Klein has been part of the team working on this, so this agreement has been reviewed by Kaylee to ensure that we protect the city's interests. What we have tried to do is develop an agreement that lays out the responsibilities for the work and for the funding between the city and the advocates. And it's always been my proposal and my recommendation to council that the advocates bear the entire hard cost of this project. The city does not have the resources to do this. The advocates have remained confident in their ability to fund the rehabilitation of the boat, the design work, and the construction work. And so that's a huge lift from them, requiring fundraising and donation, and it's much appreciated. It leaves the city with the responsibility ultimately for overseeing the project. That is all of the design work, the due diligence work, the construction and the installation and the maintenance in perpetuity would be handled by the city. And it's a concern we have. Megan, as you know, is balancing a ton of different things. We don't even have a management analyst or a project manager in the Parks Department. Megan is the project manager, as well as the director, as well as a million other things. And so as we experienced when we remodeled the historic City Hall, it really becomes a team effort. It's no one's main job. And so it's a lot of people doing little bits and trying to make it all work. And so my concerns that I've expressed to the council, lo these many years now, still remain. I'm concerned about our ability to manage this project, even with the advocates doing such a huge lift on the fundraising. I think the other categories of our concerns you've heard before, and you'll see it in the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board memo, is adding this item to an already very, very popular city park, sort of in the middle of a lot of different things going on. And I think there's a question about how many visitors this draws, and does it become just a thing that's sort of there and not a huge attraction, or are there people coming and going? We're already sort of short on parking in this area. You all know how busy Willamette Park is. The site makes sense for a ton of different reasons, including it's the former place where this actual boat actually worked. And so that's super cool. But there's a lot going on in this area, and the Parks Board has been concerned about that, and concerned about, I think they're very, what would the word be? They are very sympathetic to the amount of work that Megan does, because she is bringing them all the things she does every month, and they see it. On the other hand, the advocates feel very strongly about the importance of this to the Westland community. They have offered to do a tremendous amount of the lift in order to raise the funding to secure the boat actually being able to happen. And so what we have recommended to you is sort of a soft recommendation at this point, because we do have our concerns about our ability to manage this project, but we also understand that the council has been favorable towards it and keeping the project moving. And as I always tell you, my job is to do the things that you tell me to do, and we will do it. But there's a reality here as well. And I'm not saying anything that the advocates watching on TV haven't heard me say before. I think it's a great project and a really cool thing. And I do hope that if we move forward, that it works out great and is a great asset for this community over time. You can, of course, interrupt me at any time. I thought I would go into the, what attachment did I say? Attachment number 2, the draft memorandum of understanding. And essentially what we have is an agreement that lays out that there's 3 parties involved here. There is the city, there is the advocates for Willamette Falls, and there is the current owner of the boat, which is Wilsonville Concrete, a private company that is the inheritor of the boat from previous corporate structures, I understand. And the boat is down there in Wilsonville right now. And so what the advocates have proposed is that Wilsonville Concrete would donate the boat directly to the city of West Lynn when the funding is in place and the plan is in place. And as I understand it, when the remediation of the boat has actually happened, and that's things like lead paint removal, oil removal from the engines, all of those things that would make the boat potentially unsafe in a public property. So those three parties would work together. I described in the memorandum, I describe two main phases. So the first phase, which I came up with the amazing title of Phase 1, would be fundraising and due diligence. So we would ask the advocates to raise the money to hire the experts to do the due diligence. And what due diligence means is site design, review of permitting that might be required, environmental site review, cost estimation, all the cost work, all the landscaping, all the architecture. Oh, look, Mr. Edwards. How are you, sir? Just giving the staff report. So Jim Edwards of the advocates, and a strong believer in this project. I was just starting to go into the phases of the project. So that Phase 1 is really the fundraising and the due diligence. And the Phase 2 is getting the permitting, doing the construction work, and installing the Lady B. There's basically fundraising needed for both phases. One of the reasons you'll see some highlighting in the draft is because we don't know exactly what those funds are. But in this agreement, the advocates are committing to doing the fundraising and amounts needed to make sure the work is done correctly. And so in Phase 2, we've used a number of $150,000 in Phase 2, making a total project of $200,000. My experience recently in construction is everything is more, so we don't know, but I think that's a good working estimate for us right now. And again, Phase 1 would hone in on those estimates. Similar to the last presentation you heard for a city ops facility, we do the cost estimating, and then we move forward. The city would manage the contractors doing the work. The city would pay those contractors, but the funds, again, raised by the advocates. And so that's the Section 1 of the Memorandum of Understanding. Section 2 is the donation of the Lady B to the city, which I've already talked about, and Jim can speak to as well. The Section 3 talks about the roles. We have tried to anticipate the things that might happen at different times and tried to make sure that we can clarify who would do those parts and what the roles would be. We talk a little bit in here about the conceptual preferred location being, as I mentioned, down on Volt Street in Willamette Park. But we'll need to make sure that we can actually secure all the needed permits to do that. Section 4 of the agreement is financial administration. Section 5 attempts to say that we are hoping that the advocates can raise all of the funds. And then the last few sections are the sort of legal language that you might have in a standard legal agreement. I want to note that in Section 6 that we remind ourselves that the MOU is a general document, and if we end up with an approval from the City Council and obviously an approval from Wilsonville Concrete and from the advocates group, the next thing is we would actually work to develop a legally binding contract. And that's work that certainly the city attorney would lead. So that's the outline of the agreement as we have it right now. As a work session, we are certainly not expecting any decisions or action tonight, but direction would be incredibly valuable. And I'm sure you'll want to hear from Mr. Edwards as well. You may have questions for Megan. She's been in some of the Parks Board meetings where they've discussed this. But we are all at your pleasure for questions, discussion, thoughts about this project and how it can move forward.
Thank you for that information. Just looking over the MOU. Any initial questions or comments from the council? Councilor Bonington, please.
I'm trying to figure out from reading this, and I read it earlier, when exactly would the boat be moved to the proposed location? When will we expect to see that? And then a second question for Megan is how much staff time do you anticipate this overall taking? And is it going to threaten any other projects or regular things that need doing as a result?
Starting with the first question, which is a question that we were just recently discussing too, is making sure we had a vision for that. I think the boat moves when the site is ready for the boat. And so if you're asking a calendar question, I don't have the answer to that. But
More like the phase, like at the
permitting,
end?
the due diligence, the permitting, all of that happens. And then the construction happens and the boat gets remediated, repaired, ready to go and move to the site. Looking for a thumbs up. Okay.
And
So
that's
that's the sequencing.
at the end of phase 2?
That's the end of phase 2 is the ribbon cutting. So the
So-
second to last thing is the installation of the boat.
Okay, so after phase 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Groner and then Counselor Reich.
Yeah, could we be a little more precise on the location of the boat? Do we know where that is? I mean, where it's going to be?
Yes.
Yes, the desired location from the advocates would be near at Bernert Boat Landing, just to the east of the restroom structure. There's an open grass area that has a little bit of a knoll, and that is where the desired location would be from the advocates.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Reich, please.
So we've heard from the advocates and we've also heard from the Bolton Neighborhood Association that they're very much in favor of this. And I'm in favor of preserving this boat. I still hesitate on the city being the owner of it because we've also heard from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board that there are a lot of concerns. And even with the advocates paying all the cash money, the hours of time that it would take for Parks and Recreation staff, and I'm assuming that's mostly Director Big John, that's pretty significant. That could keep you from doing other things that also need to be done for the city. So I'm kind of torn. I see kind of both sides of this question. And I also think, you know, maybe we get the Locks Authority involved and they put it on that big grassy spot next to the locks.
So if we, this MOU, and first of all, totally agree with everything you said, and I'm feeling the same inside. I'm torn at the same time. But if this agreement goes through, is the siting still flexible? Like if we were to have conversations with the Locks Authority, I mean, are we agreeing to a particular site by signing the MOU? I guess not, because it's not binding. Like,
No, I'll have to find it on the fly, but I believe there is language about, yes, it's in section 3. I should have put page numbers in here. I almost always do that. Section 3, the preferred location is the site that Megan just described. Final approval depends on permitting design. Should the site location need to be changed, parties will meet to review and agree upon alternative location. And I think that would be, so the agreement does allow for that. But I think that would be probably a fantastic question for Mr. Edwards as well. They've spoken to you in the past, a number of the reasons why this site is preferred. But there may be another site that becomes available along the river that everyone can look at themselves and say, wow, even better. So I don't know if you want to call on Mr. Edwards yet or.
Mr. Edwards, do you have anything to add? Would you like to come up? You can speak on any of the topics we've covered tonight. You don't have to limit.
And in terms of the Locks Authority, the advocates have not approached them. My understanding from Sandy Carter is that they have their plate full of issues and actually they don't have control of any of the site. I think the Corps of Engineers still has control of the property, and so hasn't been an alternative that we pursued.
Thank you. And then I'm looking at the staff, the council options, and there's 3 listed, and there is one for further discussion with Parks and Rec Advisory Board and other advisory groups like the Historic Review Board, who hasn't been consulted on this. I don't know, does the council feel like any further consultation is even if we were to move forward with the MOU, which it sounds like the some majority of council wants to. I'm still trying to tease that out, but then you could still have some consultation with the advisory groups afterwards for on the site or.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if we might ask, even though he's not, didn't come with the presentation, I wonder if Jim might be willing to talk a little bit about the timeline considerations at this date, because things have taken a while to get to where we are here tonight. It sort of in keeping with all of our other priorities. We're pleased to be here with you tonight, but this took a little bit longer to get to this meeting than we had hoped from your last discussion, which was in March. And that's mostly on my side, I will say.
I think it was 3 years ago that this November or December, when the Wilsonville Concrete offered the boat. And so it has taken some time. But I just communicated with Wilsonville Concrete yesterday, and they seem to be okay with the timeline, which looks like it would be at the earliest late in 2026, probably sometime in 2027.
That seems reasonable to me, if we were to be moving forward from tonight.
Yes.
Jim, I wonder also, now that I've got you up here, one of the concerns that's been expressed, you've heard about my concerns about our staff time just to manage the whole thing, and we know how much time it takes to manage a project. But also, the Parks Board has expressed some concerns about how much is happening at Willamette Park, and parking shortages and a lot going on. Maybe you could share with us some of the thoughts that your group has had about how this boat on a display might impact an already busy park or not. Not a simple question, but I know it's something that the council is wrestling with.
Right. The boat would offer a reason to go to the Burnett Landing in the winter, for one thing, and I've been down to the Burnett Landing a couple of times this summer, and I think it's because of the prohibition on wakes. There's a lot fewer boats down there and fewer people down there at the parking lot than previously in previous years.
So I'm summarizing this correctly by saying it doesn't look like there's financial obligation on the city by accepting this MOU. The obligation on the city is mainly related to staff time.
That's
Is
right.
that correct?
That's how we've tried to design this agreement. I've tried to find every place that might put the city on the hook for actual dollars and winnow it from the agreement, because that's just a challenging part. And as I think I was saying, Jim, before you came in the room, that we appreciate the commitment that the advocates have made to, handle the majority of the finances of this project. It's really a cool thing to see a volunteer group step up and do that.
Well, I might add that, if I could, that we're anticipating that a project manager, private party project manager would be hired by the city to oversee the process so that it would minimize the staff time to some extent.
Megan, That's, if that's the case, and if we can work that into here, I think that would be pretty powerful. I appreciate you saying that.
Okay, well, we have an MOU before us. I just want to check in with the council on are you kind of looking for a consensus on whether this should move forward or whether this should?
Yeah, I think thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, that would be helpful. We certainly understand you're just getting the presentation and seeing this when the packet was posted. We understand if it needs to be moved to another meeting, but sort of initial direction or questions for us or things you want to look at or questions that you have for the advocates in an upcoming meeting would be super useful for us to know right now so that we can bring it back and all look smart when we come back.
If you look smart tonight, everybody looks
I
smart
do not.
tonight. Now, who would pay for that project manager? That was just mentioned the city. Or would that come from the fundraising efforts from the advocates?
I think what I heard was it would come from fundraising for the advocates, paid by the city from funds provided by the
Okay.
advocates.
That's what that's helpful. I mean, I see a path forward here. I'm concerned about I agree with the thoughts of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, but we're kind of at not a crisis, but a situation where we have groups on one side of an issue and groups on another side of the issue, and I'm trying to figure out how to make sure to try to harmonize everything as best as possible, while continuing to move forward. I don't know, Councilor Bonington, you're the Parks Board liaison, you've been part of the discussions. Is there any sort of future engagement we could do with them to, like, on siting or, because some of the issues that Ms. Handy raised, I reread them and they're valid, like lead paint issues. I think those can be addressed through, like, in the encapsulation, all that kind of, we can address a lot of the issues that have been raised. The siting and location seems to be the key. That's not addressed yet from the Parks Board's objections.
Yeah, I get the sense that a different site would make them a little more, I don't want to say supportive because it's just very clear to me they're not supportive of the overall goal. But a different site would probably change how much they object to it. I think this raises an interesting point, like a need we have to identify who decides what goes in parks, like what kind of process there is to actually put something like this in a park in the future, and who deals with historic artifacts. Like, what do we do when another thing like this comes up? How do we proceed with it? Where does it go? How do we decide that? So I think there's a need for a procedure related to that going forward, so we don't have to think so hard on this in the future. Regarding this document in front of us, I don't see anything here that I can't support, so I would be comfortable moving forward with it this way. But
Appreciate that.
yeah.
And I appreciate the advocates coming forward with they've proposed all the fundraising pledges and interest in the project. And that's what's making me, if the city was having to take on the significant financial burden at this time, we probably couldn't. But because of the fact there's some willing private fundraising partners to try to help with the effort, I'm interested in seeing if it can move forward myself also. Megan has a comment, and then we'll go to John, and then I think Carol has a comment. Oh, Councilor Bright doesn't. Okay.
Well, an overarching conversation that I'm having and trying to sort out when I got here is that we talk about pieces like the tugboat, pieces of art, and they're owned by the city, but which department owns that and owns the management of that and the updated care? So currently Parks has artwork within the Parks Department, and we have the management of that. We're going to get a historical artifact, and is our Parks crew the ones to be able to maintaining this artifact? I also now the liaison for the Arts and Culture Commission, and we do know we get 1.5% off of development. That 5% goes to that management, but who is in charge of managing that 5% for each department? We just have a kiosk this bike kiosk that's amazing in a right of way. Is that the Parks Department? Is it right of way? Those are some things that I'm looking to clarify. And so when I was first approached about the tugboat, who am I as the Parks and Recreation Department decide on the city's behalf what pieces of artifacts that we should be caring for and preserving. It's not that I'm against it, but trying to figure out that management coming right into us right now. So for example, the grindstones that are down at Burnett Landing right now have already, the wood pieces have rotten off recently. Now, we get to decide or figure out how to have those repaired with the Arts and Culture Commission, but we're the Parks and Recreation Department, we're not art managers. So that's one thing that as each piece comes in, and when I first started, I was asked about other historical artifacts that came to us, this Parks Department should take on, trying to figure out what our level of priority is, who is vetting that, just as Councilor Bonington had mentioned, and what is our expertise in managing those long-term? And that's kind of a bigger question that I'm looking at the tugboat as an example of moving forward. How do we decide? There is not a 1.5 or 5% for maintenance. It's not part of the Arts and Culture Commission. So the ongoing maintenance dollars will be coming from the Parks Department. That's fine, but just thinking about as other things come to you, how do we sort out that responsibility and where that budget's coming from?
Thank you for that. All excellent points as always, Director. Mr. Williams, you had a hand up a moment ago.
Yeah, I think Megan made most of the points I was going to. We do have, I was going to respond to Councilor Bonington and note that we have a policy at the library for accepting materials, but we've never expanded that policy to citywide. And some of the pieces that Megan describes, also from demolition work that's happening at the paper plant. You know, there's pieces down there that are super interesting, and we're trying to figure out, should we, do we take them? What do we do with them? Who, as Megan says, which department runs them? It's a very West Lynn thing. We all do a little bit of something, and we don't have a position that actually is expert at it. And so I think these are great questions. Doug has offered to help us with a citywide donation policy that I think could be of real interest to the council in answering that question you brought up. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've heard from Councilor Bonington, there's some, nothing in there to not support, so he will support. I just want to check in with other councilors. I know Council President Baumgartner cares about the topic, and she is also not able to weigh in tonight because she's not here, but I'm sure we can get her thoughts at a future meeting, or she can write in as well, because nothing is finalized at this stage since it's at a work session. So Councilor Breik, any closing comments on this topic or your thoughts?
I do feel like the MOU doesn't obligate the city financially. Again, as I said, I'm concerned about hours, time available. But I guess I could support this MOU. I worry that we get down the road and you know, something doesn't work out and the city ends up being obligated for something that we're not thinking about or aware of now.
Thank you for that. And I agree with you. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure we can, as contracts are drafted up, if an MOU goes forward, we can continue to look at that and try to flesh out all the different issues and related to potential obligations on the city. As presented here, it seems like there's some good off ramps for the city if funding doesn't come through. Councilor Bonington, then Councilor Groner, I'll turn to you for your thoughts. Close us out.
I think the most important thing I found in there, aside from that offer of the project manager being paid for out of the funds raised, is the fact that it says specifically the final location will be determined by the city. So we're not fully locked into that if that does not end up looking like the way to go ultimately. So that's an important point that makes me pretty comfortable with this.
Thank you for that. Councilor Groner, any thoughts on your end?
Yes, I think the MOU as written puts to rest a lot of the concerns that I might have had. I think there are some protections against some of the contingencies. There may be contingencies we're not aware of, but that's always true.
Okay. Well, the four of us have spoken. We'll get Council President's thoughts over. I'm sure she'll get that to you, John, in the coming days. And then what's the next step here? Is this something that needs to be voted on at a city council meeting?
Yes.
I'm sure the Parks Board will get an update and can have further discussions as well. And perhaps we can also check in with Historic Review Board, because this is a historic kind of structure.
Happy to do that. I think the next step are working with the advocates and with Wilsonville Concrete to make sure that the form of the agreements that we're drafting here are acceptable to all parties and we can move forward. As I mentioned earlier, so we would do that work, bring the MOU back to council at a business meeting for consideration. And each party would need to approve it. And then we'd move forward with the next step of drafting actual contracts, which we would probably start working on already in order to keep things moving forward. Happy to do some of that check-in work that you described. Having a council liaison to the Parks and Rec Board will be super helpful. But staff will do that as well with the PRAB. So don't have an exact time frame. We'll talk
Okay.
offline and look at a business meeting upcoming. Shouldn't take too long because I think we're relatively close on this MOU. Hope so. Meanwhile, we'll try to think of all the things that we can't think of and put them in here too. Appreciate your consideration of that.
Thank you.
And we will see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, we can go to the city manager report.
Mr. Mayor, for this evening, look forward to next meeting, standing next meeting, stay regular Tuesday, October 7th at 5 o'clock. The other appointments have all run out, so we'll get you calendars. There'll be the daytime work session. We'll have a work session discussion of council rules. As requested by the mayor at our last meeting. One of the changes is to minimum consideration of change numbers to Tuesdays. Maybe a couple of months as well. We're also planning to have Doug Riggs here talking about the legislative update. Darren will be back at this time with the water provision plan. And we have 3 meetings. All that done in one meeting as a money. The very next day, mornings, that's when we're having our retreat / course setting. It's about opportunities. I think a great opportunity to think about some of the things we talked about recently, how they fit into your overall goals for financial management of the city. We're talking about the budget stabilization ideas. We're talking about staffing ideas and from time to time. Including most recently the Oppenheimer conversation we had. And so that's Tuesday, that'll be Wednesday. First one is Tuesday, that's Wednesday, this meeting is the 14th. We'll have development code amendments that we've sort of learned about already, and a couple of other items. I appreciate Councilor Broner mentioning the police review and recommend meeting you had earlier. That group does meet twice a year, as I mentioned last week. Sort of a January meeting every year to review the work we did in the past year and send recommendations to council stuff or they kind of fit the council. They also have another one each year and at that meeting today, they talked about how they do the work they do. Talking about some of the training they received, and we had staff talking about staff work. It's really a partnership between that committee and staff. Written that way in the ordinance, that's what it's all about today. And I always like to remind folks that we're doing sort of about 6 a year. So it's really a very modest number of makes its way to the committee. And we do take work playing very well. There's a lot of ways. There certainly is formal ethics point on our websites, anonymous phone or web-based reporting. City that actually you pay about any number of these. But we also have started things because of email, started things because of the questions asked us. So we take the mission of that committee very seriously, broadly, and we are trying to involve any report. So I just wanted to mention that. That's most of what I wanted to mention this week. What I missed out, I can't remember what it was. So
Now we're all just going to be in suspense until October. Wait until you think of it now. Just kidding. Anything else for the good of the order? Any questions for the city manager? I know we're working on your evaluation process and the public and staff comments have come in. So next steps are you're going to work on your self-evaluations. That maybe we could just give a little update on that process.
Yep, public comment concluded at the end of August. I'll be sending you a self-evaluation that incorporates that public comment, and we'll have an executive session as soon as you are ready after that. We had some draft dates in a report that I submitted during the summer.
Sounds good. And then I will get the Survey Monkey out to the city council so that we can all provide our comments in
Fantastic.
advance of that executive session. Councilor Bonington, please.
Will we still have that separate evaluation of the city in general available at the
Yes.
same time?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
That will be
Those
part of the
comments-
questions.
Yep, those comments were tracked separately.
Good flag on that, Counselor. Good job. Anything else? Okay, well then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll see you in October. Happy fall. And thanks to TVC TV, the guys back there. You're doing a great job. This chair I really like.